welcome everyone to another Talk, Listen, Share, a Shay's Warriors Life After Cancer online educational program. I am Dr. Sonja Fung, one of the hosts of Talk, Listen, Share, along with Elizabeth, another Talk, Listen, Share volunteer. So thank you so much for being on. Shay's Warriors is a 501c3 nonprofit formed in the Coachella Valley to help our cancer community thrive after treatment is over. The mission of Shay's Warriors is to inspire, inform, and empower through health, fitness, and the mind-body connection to help survivors and their families move through the trauma of cancer. Our Talk, Listen, Share community was formed as a part of an online educational outreach to support each other through survivorship and into thrivership. You'll find stories from our cancer community on our monthly lives, and our past videos on our social media, our Facebook, our Instagram, and YouTube channels. We would also love to hear from you as cancer survivors, so please ask us questions, or if you have, or leave comments, feedback. If you have any burning topics that you want to hear about, also please let us know. So without further ado, let me introduce you to our special guest tonight. Rosemary Flaherty is a past board member and a past host of Talk, Listen, Share. She has a long and storied 42 years of a career as a nurse, and she is currently retired, but she has been also most recently a patient coordinator, I believe, at Eisenhower Health. Correct. And she is intimately familiar with the role of patient empowerment and self-advocacy, which we will be talking about tonight. So currently, Rosemary is living her best life with her pup, her husband, and also volunteering at the Palm Springs Library. And thank you all for joining us again tonight. We also have another one. Yay! Also, Dr. Amy Hetherington, also part of the Talk, Listen, Share crew. She is joining us as well. So,
good to see everyone.
Hello.
All right, Rosemary, the floor is yours.
It is. Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me. I think that this is a great topic. I've been a coordinator, navigator in two very specialized fields. I was a liver transplant coordinator through the UCLA program many years ago, after working in liver transplantation for many, many years. And then when we relocated to the desert, I worked at Eisenhower, and for about 8 years, I was the patient breast nurse coordinator. So I dealt a lot with empowering, educating, facilitating the process of breast cancer treatment when I was at the breast center. So the point of an advocate is someone who's going to be a great support for you with many duties. So a good listener, somebody that can be there with you, someone that will review and process with you, somebody that will help you facilitate appointments, somebody who will be there to intervene if there are any blocks or any issues that come about. So I think a good place to start is just a definition of what an advocate is. And I pulled this definition from the National Cancer Institute, which is available at cancer.gov, their website. So an advocate helps patient communication with healthcare providers so that they get the information needed to make decisions about healthcare. They can be provided by the medical center, by the cancer center. There may be someone within some of these large oncology practices. It can be a relative. It can be your friend. If you have a friend who's a nurse, then she can probably get going with helping out in setting you up on a road to advocacy, to be there with you, and to encourage the skills that you need to be a self-advocate. Because when it comes right down to it, we have the responsibilities to advocate for ourselves, because the healthcare systems are complicated, they're multifaceted. We get information from so many different resources that it's really important that we also be actively involved in advocating for ourselves, regardless of if we have an outside advocate or whether we're doing it by ourselves. The advocate, there are also advocates for hire. So there are many resources online for people who might need an outside advocate that can do many of the tasks involved. So one thing that's very important with advocacy is keeping really good records, keeping track of appointments, and being good at communications with multiple medical entities. So communications with your doctors. There may be X-ray exams, imaging studies, lab visits, second consultations with other providers that are part of your healthcare team. So it's important to learn how to keep all of this information in a good organized fashion so that it can help you. When you're going through any type of new medical issue, medical crises, whatever the case may be, it's really important to be able to go through your emotional process and then be able to receive information. So if you can try to do different steps that help out with alleviating some of your anxieties and fears, so that when you go into the doctor, you're prepared and can provide good communication and also listening. In the first visits, when you've had a new diagnosis that is going to have impact on your life and your health, it's really nice to have somebody go with you. So a relative, your husband, your partner, your friends, another relative, if you have aunts or whatever that can be with you, it's really very, very helpful, because there's so much information that can come at you, you can block things. But a second set of ears who's also documenting or recording is someone that can really help you to process fully what was just discussed. So what makes a good advocate? You have to identify a person that is close to you and you're comfortable with, that you know is going to be somebody that brings comfort to you when you're in this situation and brings out the best. So good communications are really very important. So get somebody who's a good communicator, and between the two of you, you can have a very good first appointment with a reduction of anxiety. That was one of the first things that I would discuss with people when they were going to go have their first surgical appointment or their first oncology appointment. It's just important to have somebody with you. Sometimes it might not be your spouse, but keeping your family informed is very important. But you might want somebody with you that has more time availability, is somebody that you have a great bond with trust, and you feel is going to be able to help you through this process. So good communications, you have to be able to voice your needs in various situations. And remember that communications are always two ways. So you want to be able to talk with your doctor, and you want to be able to receive and also listen to what he's saying, the general information, but also be very good at being able to ask questions. So it's a good two-way communication. And one thing that's important, if you are with a provider, with a physician, that is someone that you feel is not someone that you connect with, that is not someone that might be your first choice, or you're having some issues, you're always welcome to get a second opinion. So I think that's something that's really important, because I know a lot of women said, I just didn't get along with this person. And then they need to be encouraged that there are many other people in the community that might be able to help you. The majority of people that I've spoken with have really been very pleased with the healthcare and with the first consultations. But you're always, just something to remember, you're always entitled to second opinions. Even if you're still going to choose your first consultation, you're always welcome to second opinions. It's also important to remember that there are some basic skills that are really important in being an advocate, and that is organizing, calendaring, documenting the information that you receive. So I always recommend starting with a book, usually a small book like this, that's going to be your best friend. If you're good at creating documents and feel more comfortable with using a device, then that's fine. But you just want something that you can reference, and that's going to keep you on track. So when you hear the diagnosis and before your appointment, always do some research. See what resources are available in your community. Do some research on if it's breast cancer, if it's lung cancer. Do some preliminary research online or through any available information that's provided by your healthcare facility, because information is power, and it's going to help with the receiving of information and what's being said on your first encounter. And you can always record these first appointments. You just have to get permission. So that's always an option, particularly if you're by yourself and you want to go home and re-listen to this. But you do need permission, and be prepared to write and to ask questions and to clarify. So, and then a good summary at the end. Okay, am I correct in hearing that this is going to require surgery, of which I have a choice of which type of surgery, and that my recovery might be this long? So it's good to validate things afterwards, because that's reassuring to both you and the physician, or if the advocate is working for you. Gather all the information needed to prepare for the visit. Analyze support systems, internal and external, that are within your family, that are within your community. Because sometimes advocacy, when you're advocating for yourself, you can figure out who you would like to accompany you to this, and who would you like to accompany you to that, to be that second set of ears, to be that support, to be there to just help out. Sometimes it changes, but when you're advocating for yourself, realize that you evaluate systems within your life that are not just directly medicated or directly related to the medical community. Assess your physical, emotional needs, and what your capacity is at receiving information. As I said, sometimes emotions are incredibly high when there is a new diagnosis, when there's going to be something in front of you that you just don't feel prepared for. So the importance is learning all of the information and how you can prepare yourself to move forward in the best way possible, to keep to keep your eye on what needs to be done and when it ends, and figure out what goes on afterwards. So there's also responsibility involved. And so if you have someone that's advocating for you, part of their job is make sure that you're meeting your responsibility, which is some compliance, which means make sure that you appear to your appointments on time. Be sure that you go to your imaging and keep those appointments, because it can be very busy in the beginning, because there's still more information that needs to be obtained in the form of imaging, in the form of consultations. There might be different labs that are needed, and also figure out what's the best way for you to communicate and what's the best way for other people to communicate. So are you going to be communicating directly with other people in your life? Are you going to be setting up the communication with other types of appointments that you might need and people in the life? And then also explore your financial concerns, because that's also something else. Get a communication stream going with your, if you're employed, your HR department, and talk to them about any possible leaves that might be necessary. Talk to your insurances about coverage. So those are things that are empowering. Your insurance will come into play because everybody needs authorization. So when they get the authorization, then you may have somebody representative at the insurance company that will also be there to help you with some types of advocacy and information that will be important for you. It's also important, if you're in a cancer center, ask them if they have a coordinator, an advocate, a navigator that is going to be able to help you out, that will be someone that you can, a point person for you in discussing any of your roadblocks that might happen. So that's another aspect of self-advocacy, is anticipating if there's going to be roadblocks and what to do if something pops up that's just, I need help. So it's important to know what resources are available to you there, and also explore your community. I know that support groups are very important, and also online resources, that if there's something that's not available, particularly if you're in a small rural community, you might not have the resources available that the big city up the street has. So that is important, that you can communicate with them and go on their website. We'll get to some resources in just a minute. It's also good sometimes when you're making appointments with physicians, when you're making the appointment, ask the person that is making the appointment, it's like, how much time do I have? Will I have time to bring somebody with me? Will I have time to ask questions? Kind of get a feeling for the time frame, because that also informs you about how to interact with this and what to get out of it. So part of the advocacy, this is kind of navigating the medical system, navigating what's in front of you, pulling into parts of your life. So when you look at some of the residual things in your life, what can I do to facilitate that? I'm going to be having a hip replacement soon. So the first thing that I got in line was getting the doctor's appointments, ordering a recliner, getting somebody to walk the dog. It's like all of these things can be settled and organized, and that can just give you that level of confidence that things are going to go smoothly, that I'm in control of this. And that's something that your healthcare provider should be able to provide for you as well, is what to expect. What do I need to prepare for this? How long is the anticipated recovery? When can I start exercising? When can I start working? And also, when you first get the diagnosis, you also might want to do some interventions right then to prepare yourself, because there's nothing that prepares your mind to be your best advocate than feeling like you're doing something that's going to be beneficial for your health and for the journey that's in front of you. So people used to ask me, I have 3 weeks before I see somebody. What can I do now? Evaluate your life. Is your diet good? Do you smoke? Do you drink? Do you want to start thinking about doing things like increasing my walking, just so that it not only clears your head, it provides a good physical release and builds you up for surgery, for treatment. So you can kind of look at this that, there are two parts of me advocating for myself. I'm going to take care of myself before I go into treatment, before I have surgery, before I have to meet with these people. And that builds confidence, helps with anxiety. And then what am I going to do for myself during and after? If you're really in a stressful zone, you have a ton of appointments, treat yourself. Say, I'm going to go buy myself a big, delicious coffee and review my notes after this meeting. I'm going to meet my friend. If your friend isn't with you, I'm going to meet my friend for coffee. And she's agreed to help me and work through some issues with me and listen to what I'm saying to help me process. So those are built-in little treats and rewards for yourself. And that's a very good way to advocate for yourself. So be knowledgeable of the community resources, be knowledgeable of what an advocate does. I'm going to give some resources. Now, there are lots of places that, because the advocate is a role that many healthcare providers are going into, because they have the knowledge and the background to be able to advocate for a number of people just as an advocate, not as a nurse working within that field, but as someone who knows how to facilitate the healthcare system, knows how to intervene and communicate with professionals, knows how to prepare you by giving you information. So lots of these things that I'm saying we can do, there are healthcare advocates that can do it for you. Particularly people that are older might not be able to advocate for themselves, particularly if they don't have children that are close, if they don't have any type of spouse or partner. So an outside advocate that is hired through a facility might be somebody that is a really good introduction to having someone by your side that's going to help you, talk with you, and help you facilitate and problem solve throughout, as well as communicate for you, as well as maybe set up your appointments for you. The goals of advocacy are to form partnerships, to empower you, to increase your knowledge base so that you feel comfortable that you know what you need to know to make good decisions for yourself. Because ultimately, regardless of who's our advocate, the client, the patient, we are the ones that make the decisions. We need to understand all the processes that are involved and what's expected. You need to understand the diagnosis, the treatment, and your pathology. And you, as I mentioned, set up your own goals for the process. And you can also, when you have your journal, I recommend highly keep every card that you get at a front desk. They can be referenced frequently, take a picture of it, but I think that it's really helpful because this book might get you through And then 3 years later, you completely change healthcare plans, and you can go to this book and reference everything. Your MAR is very valuable if you can pull up all of your information, all your pathology reports, all of your appointments, et cetera, et cetera. That's incredibly important. But I think transcribing them into a simple format, be it online, be it the physical book, is really helpful. Keep track of your appointments. Be sure to list what year it is and the date of the appointments, what they were for, what was discussed. Keep track of your labs. Keep track of your emotions. It can be part of a diary for you about how you're doing, what you might need to, what do I need to intervene in some way to get me through this better? Write these wonderful notes to yourself, these self-affirmations at the top of it. And you can doodle in it. But the other thing that's important is, I know I'm getting short. The other thing that's really important is keep track of your symptoms. If there's new medications, keep track of the any type of reaction you might have. So, and remember, you're a patient, you have rights. You have the right to be treated with respect and dignity. You have the right to learn about treatment and risks and benefits, a right to question your healthcare status, your healthcare provider, your right to a second opinion, and your right to non-discrimination and confidentiality. With that, I will end because it's time.
All right. Thank you. So it's a lot of information to download in a very short period of time. And thank you for trying to tackle and doing a masterful job at getting all of this information to us. There's been, there are other comments. Dr. Amy was saying that, made a good point. She said that cancer impacts everyone, but it doesn't impact everyone equally. And it is very important to advocate for oneself if encountering a lack of cultural humility within the healthcare cancer community, or just in general, any healthcare community. And as self-advocacy and getting an advocate also closes healthcare disparities. So
it does. Yeah. I just want to list a resource.
Yes,
that there is a resource called Nura Health, which is Nura, NURRA.me, that can provide you with a lot of healthcare information and formatted. It uses AI information to provide that. Johns Hopkins Medical Center has excellent resources for advocates, and so you can research what you need to know about whatever is impacting your health. There is an Office of Patient Advocacy, which is www.opa.ca.gov. Now, this is particular to the state of California, but it gives report cards for healthcare, analyzes healthcare plans, and it gives report cards for many of the healthcare plans that are out there. And then there is there's the National Cancer Institute, cancer.gov, has lots of information. Solus Healthcare, which is support at solus.health, may have, depending on it, they provide services for free to Medicare and for certain healthcare plans. So for people that qualify for that. So that is that is an institution that can provide a healthcare advocate for you, and it might pick up the charges for it.
Can you say that one more time?
Sure. Sure. So
Solus Care?
It's support at, this is their thing, their website, Solace, SOLACE Health.
SOLACE
Health.
.health.
Yeah. So if you go on patient advocacy, if you just do a search for patient advocates, remember your resources are going to be best if it ends with .gov, .org, or .edu.
Of course, yes. Reputable resources.
Definitely.
Definitely.
And thank you for joining us, Allison. I see you there. And Allison also mentioned early on cancercare.org,
Yes.
as well as triagecancer.org for legal questions and understanding your rights.
What a great resource.
Really? Yeah.
Mhm.
And they are all hopefully spelled correctly. I was trying to type really quickly to put it all in our comments for our viewers for those resources. Right. Well, thank you again so much, Rosemary. Do you have any questions for her, Elizabeth or Amy?
Elizabeth, do you have any questions?
I had a quick question. Yeah, I just wanted to ask, when cancer treatment ended, I felt like my patient advocate was gone and I was left alone to navigate the process on my own. Are there patient advocates that do that for us in survivorship? Because I just felt like it was a whole different, it was a different battle. It was going uphill and then going downhill to start going back uphill, and I was navigating it alone, and I felt that it was kind of it kind of set me back a little bit because I didn't know what to do now. I was kind of lost.
That is a very, very valid feeling, and that is definitely why Shay's Warriors was created, is for that moment when it's like, oh, great, it's your last appointment. Yay, everything's done. And then it's like, now what? So I think that that's a really good point to find supportive resources in the community that might be able to help you in the form of a support group. But it's also, I think that it's a really good question that we might not be prepared to do, but on that last appointment, ask them for, what do I do now? Where do I go from here? Where do I report? Because you've had a team of multiple people involved in your care, a surgeon, the oncologist, and I would definitely ask at the end of their appointments, this is my last appointment, where do I go? Because the majority of advocacy, this provided by the hospital, does seem to, it feels like it just ends abruptly.
I think too, just to kind of expand on that and kind of in closing, that you mentioned it, Rosemary, perfectly, that, that was the rationale and the reason and behind the inception of Shay's Warriors, just to create that space for advocacy and just for like meaningful exchange of information between cancer survivors. And I think also maybe, Elizabeth, like just thinking about how our own advocacy efforts can impact our community by helping others really understand your experience, the experience of other survivors, and then we can offer education on topics that are of your interest, that are more specific to the survivorship experience, like things that Rosemary brought up tonight, which were so great. Just looking at work, reimbursement of services, and the legal component that I believe Allison had wrote about. All of those things are just advocacy, and it's evolving, becoming an advocate, a self-advocate, and then becoming even an advocate for others,
Right.
as you've been with our coffee and connections and leading groups and really bringing up those topics, we're getting your perspective, and that helps us grow our community and really helps us inform our programs and revisit the
Absolutely.
mission. So thank you. And thank you too, Rosemary.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for always your support. And we will be back here for another live next month. And if you have any other feedback and questions, please go to our website, shayswarriors.org. We have also our events and programming as well that you can find on our website, and like Coffee and Connections, like Move to Heal with our Fit Warriors. So thank you again tonight. Thank you, Rosemary. We will see you next time. Have a good
We
night.
will. Have a
Nice
great
to see
evening.
you.
Thank you so much. I
You
really enjoyed
too. Bye.
it. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Thank you.
Night.